And welcome back, everyone. It has been a long time since I did one of these, but I still got it here, still doing the series. And with a week off, I got the time to do it. The Strongest Trainer series video. We talked about in the first part of this series, who was the strongest first gym leader. Now we are going along in our journey to find out who is the strongest second gym leader. Now, as before, I should have, since it's been a while since we've talked about this subject, just to go over how I approach this topic. We are looking at the gym leaders if they all exist within the Pokemon world at the same time, which they do. But if they came together with the team that they have when you face them in game the first time, who is the strongest? We're not evening out the levels. We're not evening out the stats. No, we are looking at it as a whole. So type, level, all of it remains the same no matter what. So let's just get down to it. Coming up for the number one spot, or the number one weakest second gym leader you face, is Bugsy. Now, Bugsy was a little tricky because when I looked at Bugsy's teams, there's not many. And oddly enough, Bugsy's strongest team is actually his original gold, silver, crystal team. It's weird to say, but that is his, and sorry, there's an ad showing up under there. There we go. It is actually his strongest team. But this occurs before abilities ever were created. So I basically had to include the abilities that his Pokemon have in Heart Gold, Soul Silver onto his Crystal team. And the reason this is the strongest team is if you look at like the Heart Gold, Soul Silver team, his Kakuna and Metapod are far worse in those games than they are in this game. They only have, like, I think, Poison Sting attached on there. Not even Harden, if I remember correctly. I think they only have one attack. Whereas you have both String Shot, Tackle, and Harden and Poison Sting added into those. And his Scyther is still Scyther. Unfortunately, this is a trait that's going to, like I said in the first video, going to carry over with a lot of the Johto characters. Johto is not a very strong region compared to the other regions in terms of level. In fact, when I really based it out, let's just look over this really quick here. Against someone like Misty, for example, level-wise, Misty already outranks him by a large margin. Not to mention that her Starmie has Rapid Spin in the Leaf Green team, which is the strongest team that I had for her there. Then if you go to Brawly, Brawly is the only one I feel he could actually defeat. And it still would not be easy. It would not be quick. And Brawly's strongest team, in my opinion, is actually his Emerald team. However, the fact that they're bug types means that none of these guys have attacks that really are going to do a lot of damage. It's all really a battle of attrition. Whereas the Scyther can still up its attack with Fury Cutter and take a lot of these guys down. Plus, you can battle attrition of them out with the Kakuna and the Metapod. And Kakuna can poison them eventually with a Poison Sting. So while it would be difficult, no doubt it would be difficult, I do think Brawly is the one gym leader that Bugsy is capable of defeating. Then if you go on to characters such as Gardenia, it's despite the fact that Gardenia, which is right there, Gardenia, who again her Platinum team I think is her strongest team, has a type disadvantage. She is still level-wise far above both the Kakuna and the Metapod and the Scyther on the team. Add on to the fact that all of her Pokemon have a couple moves that are just cheesy, like Leech Seed, Poison Sting. Even though grass is neutral to grass, it still is not. It's still not a team that unfortunately Bugsy is really equipped to deal with. Bugsy even doesn't really do well against a normal type gym like Lenora's, for example. And this really just comes straight down to just level and attacks capable of hurting them on. The takedown from Herdier is problematic. Intimidate is going to harshly affect Scyther. So even with a battle of attrition on their side, even though Dark is resisted by bugs, they have both Bite, Crunch, and Retaliate. It's still not. It still doesn't look good on their end. And if you go even further beyond that, with Roxy, who we're using the challenge mode team here, well then they're screwed because you can only she's gonna poison 2 of those mon very quickly. With either smog, poison gas, or poison sting. And knowing Venoshock means you're going to double that damage, and Kakuna doesn't have any real abilities to hurt these things. Then if you go even further beyond that, I mean, what do you have left? You got Grant. Grant is just going to completely annihilate them at level 25. And having rock type moves means he's gonna clear bulldoze them over. He's just gonna bulldoze them down. And then you go into Nessa, who also just has a complete level gap over Bugsy. It's unfortunate, but yeah, Bugsy is the weakest gym leader among the second gym and among second gyms. And like I said, stay tuned for later in this series. A lot of the Johto gym leaders are gonna kind of follow in suit. But following in suit, the second weakest gym leader is unfortunately Lenora. Lenora is unfortunate in the sense that, yes, but you know, every leader beyond this besides Brawly can beat Bugsy. That was just the way I interpreted it. But yeah, so Lenora's team isn't bad. It's not very good. It's so basic that when I really broke it down, the only gym leader that was capable of being beyond Bugsy was Brassius. And this is because Brassius, while not having a bad team per se, the level gap just isn't there. Especially because we're not allowing gimmicks first off. So like Dynamax, Gigantamax, all that, Mega Evolution, and Terastallization are not included. But that's kind of irrelevant because when you look at the attacks Brassius has, he's only got 2 attacks on each of these guys, and 2 of them, the Patil and the Smoliv, are weak as all hell. So Brassius sadly is not going to be able to beat Lenora. Unfortunately for beyond that though, Lenora is really not very well versed to deal with the rest of these Mon or the rest of these teams. Let's look at it this way. Again, you have a Herdier with Intimidate, which is helpful in any of these. Intimidate's a great ability to have. And then Watchdog with Illuminate, which I believe, if I remember, I can't remember exactly what Illuminate did, but I knew it didn't help in the fight. You have Takedown, Bite, Retaliate, Leer. Great. So wonderful. So, okay, Misty, level 18, Staryu, level 21, Starmie, Water and a Water Psychic. You would think having that Dark typing there would help with the Starmie, except Starmie is a fully evolved Pokemon, a little bit like Watchog, but the difference is its stats are just much higher. And again, it has abilities like freaking Rapid Spin, which will increase its speed, Recover, which means even if it does take a hit, it's got enough bulk to take it, and then recover, and then dish out a Water Pulse on these guys. It's really, and then that's not even including the fact that they still got to get through the Staryu, which is a pure water type, has Harden, and then can just recover in Water Pulse. So unfortunately, while I think there was a chance, especially going against the Starmie, with the Dark type moves, the fact that Starmie just, I believe, has better stats than Watchog and has just a more versatile moveset does not help at all in this case. Even with the Intimidate, it doesn't really matter as Water Pulse is a special move. So there's that. I mentioned Brassius. She quickly cleaned through Brassius. And despite the fact that Brawly has, I was actually thinking in reverse here. Brawly has a complete type advantage over her. And even though her Mon technically are at a higher level, barely, they are technically there. They are technically there. It doesn't matter because even the gap isn't wide enough for it to matter here. That Machop is still going to cleave through that Lilliput or Herdier without too much difficulty, even with the Intimidate. Even if that Watchog does manage to bring it down, it's still got to deal with 2 more fighting types that are still immensely powerful that it has to deal with. So, yeah, I would not... Brawly would make mincemeat of her. Gardenia, as I said, has a complete gap in level. Like, not even a complete gap, I should say, but is her weakest level Pokemon is as strong as her strongest level Pokemon. That's not a good start. Then you factor in the fact that unlike with, say, Bugsy, all those grass type moves like Razor Leaf, Leech Seed, Poison Sting, Stun Spore, Grass Knot, all those are going to hit, and they're going to hit hard. Add on a third extra Mon, and Gardenia is just going to cleave through Lenora. Then you go into Roxy, and Roxy is a little tricky here. You see, Roxy doesn't have a level advantage. As a matter of fact, that Intimidate is going to be very good against that attacks like Assurance, I believe Rollout from Venipede. So even though, and there's no type advantage here, but the problem just comes down to poisoning. Poisoning and the fact that all three of these Mon are still really tanky. Coughing Line is a tanky line that can take a decent amount of damage. Grimer can take a lot of bulk. And Whirlipede's only half evolved, like fully evolved, and it's still a decently bulky little mid-stage Pokemon there. Then you go into Grant. And it's unfortunate, but yeah, this is again just a level cap issue. She cannot compete with these things on pure level alone. Add on the fact that it's one of the earliest, if not the earliest time a dragon shows up in the gym leaders. That Tyrunt is just a problematic Pokemon overall. And then last but not least, I already went over Brassius, but last but not least, Lenora's again, Lenora just simply has a level advantage and more Mon on her side. And on the fact that you have Whirlpool, which will keep dealing damage. Your Intimidate doesn't matter against Water Pulse. Her Arrokuda would be hurt by the Intimidate, admittedly, because it only has physical attacks. But then you get the Dreadnought, which is far bulkier than anything she's got. So it's just going to take it and then dish it out. So unfortunately, for what it's worth, and I like Lenora, I do. Lenora comes in at the number 8 spot. Coming in at the number 7 is, I got to get Lenora out of here, is Misty. Now, as we just said, Misty could beat Lenora, and she could beat Bugsy. And that's it, because as we established, Misty's team is not bad, honestly. It's just one evolution, or one pre-evolution and its evolution. And they both have natural cure, which is fine. But when it all came down to it, Brawly she probably could have beaten Brawly if that Starmie knew a psychic attack. But the problem is Starmie does not know psychic attacks. It knows water attacks and normal. It has one water attack and a normal attack with Water Pulse, Swift, Recover, and Rapid Spin. That Staryu also isn't lasting very long. Yes, it's got Harden. Yes, it can Water Pulse for a little bit. And yes, it can use Recover. But unfortunately, between Seismic Toss, Bulk Up, and Low Kick, and they all having Bulk Up, that Staryu just will not last long enough, I think, to take that Machop down. Or it barely succeeds. The Meditite comes in and then puts up a light screen first, then a Reflect. And then it's just going to go to town on Staryu. And Starmie's not going to be able to get through those those screen effects until it's too late. And by the time it's trying to use a Recover, the Makuhita's just throwing Bulk Up and Arm Thrust. So, yeah, no bueno, unfortunately. But still, not bad. She could do worse against this team. You then have Gardenia, who, again, completely levels her out. Not like completely, but her lowest level is just a little under her highest level. 2 level 20s versus her highest level 21. The big issue, obviously, here, type advantage. And a fully evolved Roserade and a Cherim. So, yeah, she's not going to be able to take that thing on at all. As we established, though, she can beat Lenora, which is good. Unfortunately, she does not do very well against Roxy. Now, granted, the natural cure can alleviate the poison to a certain degree, but that still can only do so much. And if she's unable to cure the Staryu and the Starmie in time, the Venoshock is just going to completely overtake those two. Not to mention, once again, you have bulk on all three of these Mon. Also, you have Disable on Grimer, which would be problematic, especially if, like, say, either Recover or Water Pulse are disabled. And then you have the Whirlipede, which, again, none of these mon are as strong as her strongest Starmie, but she has an extra mon, and the gap is not that great. It's only a 4-level gap between her strongest and her weakest. Misty's strongest and Roxy's weakest. So in that ground, I have to go with Roxy in that. Then you would go to all the way to Callus again. Now she has a type advantage against Grant. She does. The problem here is very simple, and honestly, the Amora probably wouldn't last very long once it comes out. Now, granted, the Thunder Wave is problematic. Once that Thunder Wave is activated, it just has to take down and Rock Tomb a couple times, slowing speed down, and Staryu's done. Starmie is faster than both of these of Mon, but Tyrant has Strong Jaw and Bite, a Dark type move, which is specifically a problem for Starmie being part Psychic. So, and then you add in 4 extra levels over Starmie, and unfortunately, Grant, even with a type disadvantage, would still beat her. Now, at that point, you're dealing water to water with Nessa and Misty. And again, her weakest is stronger than her strongest level-wise. Nessa over Misty. But I will admit, it's not quite as close here, simply on the ground of like a speed stat, because I think Staryu could probably end up maybe taking the Gold D down if it's lucky. And even if it's not, Starmie could definitely take it down. Rapid Spin, increase its speed, recover for the cheese for a while. The problem just simply comes down to, even though there is a slight type advantage against the Dreadnought, it's because both Arrokuda, Goldeen, and the Dreadnought both have just straight out normal moves, plus Dreadnought has Bite, and Arrokuda has Bite as well. Starmie is going to go down. And that would leave the last one with Brassius. And again, even though it's not the strongest team with really not that much going for it, and the Sudowoodo would get taken down pretty quick, the fact that Mega Drain is attached to the Patil along with Sleep Powder means that Staryu's got to get taken down pretty quick, and Starmie isn't going to be lasting very long either, if we're going to be honest. I think the Sudowoodo would actually come out second after the Patil, assuming the Patil goes down, which it would probably eventually go down. And the level gap is large, but not that large. It's 4 levels between Staryu and Sudowoodo. Is Sudowoodo capable of taking an attack from Starmie? I think it'd be capable of taking 1 attack. And small as Razor Leaf, I think Brassius could just barely beat Misty. I do think it's possible Brassius could beat Misty. Speaking of Brassius, we're actually going to stay on Brassius because coming in at the number 6th spot after Misty, we got Brassius. Now, Brassius, I do wish that the new leaders could have a bit more time to shine, let's say here. They're not weak. As you've actually seen so far, at least in these 2 videos, none of these gym leaders have actually been like the bottom of the pack. But they're not the strongest, because just like with Misty and Lenora, Brassius really could only beat 2 gym leaders from what I could tell. Misty and Bugsy. Now, as I said, Lenora can beat him, no issue. So let's just start off then with Emerald, then, with Brawly. Brawly's team is just, look, they're level to level, they're actually very close to each other. In fact, they're almost exact. The problem is very simple. No type advantage. That's the only reason I really gave Brassius a win over Misty, even with a Sudowoodo, is a type advantage. Here, that's not a case. And therefore, that Patil and that Smoliv are going down pretty quick. Makuhito would... now, the Sudowoodo could probably take down at least one of them, but the fact that it's rock means it now has a type disadvantage. So Brawly is quickly taking down Brassius. No doubt about that. Then Gardenia would also be taking down Brassius because she's just a simply better grass user. Now, because they are grass, most of the base moves aren't going to do very well against his first 2 Pokemon. The Sudowoodo is going down hard, no worries. But that's where Roserade comes in with Poison Sting, and just using a type advantage move and a stab type advantage move is going to completely win that scenario here. Then we got Black and White 2's Roxy challenge mode. Again, type advantage. Poison is strong against grass, and all of her weakest mon is stronger than his strongest mon. The Sudowoodo would be a little difficult to deal with, simply because it is a level, I believe, 17. Was it 17? Yeah, 17. And it's a rock type, so it has type advantage. Unfortunately, by the time you get the Sudowoodo, his first 2 are going to be gone, I think. And then he's probably able to take down the Koffing. He might even manage to take down the Grimer. But at that point, Whirlipede is just going to be able to take... actually, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't believe Rock has an advantage over Poison. It's just kind of neutral. I believe so, because you can't poison a Rock, per se. But I know Ground and Poison have a relationship. And Ground is strong against Poison. I don't think it's Rock. But still, between the Whirlipede also having Rollout, and Grimer having Disable, which means you can literally disable half of his moves, and one of the moves is Trail Blades. So, yeah, he's not beating them. To the point, type advantage, sure, but there's an 8-level gap between your strongest and their... So that's not happening. And you have an Ice type, which is going to cleave through the first 2 grass Pokemon, no problem. Last but not least, again, Nessa, just again, a clear level advantage. Even with type advantage, this is and Sudowoodo can't count here, so that's a 16 to 22. That's a 6-level type disadvantage there. And that's the weakest one. There's an 8-level type disadvantage against the Dreadnought. So unfortunately, Brassius is just not cut out for this, unfortunately. He's just not, in terms of the overall gym leaders we have left, a very capable gym leader, in my opinion. In my personal opinion. Now, that being said, coming in at the number 5 spot, we got our own workout man, Brawly. Brawly, if we decide to go over to his page real quick, as I said, Brawly has actually had a relatively decent matchup so far. He has a lot more wins than a lot of the ones that came before. As we established, I think he can beat Misty, I think he can beat Lenora, and I think he beats Brassius. But he was the one that I was kind enough to give Bugsy the win over. And even then, you could maybe make an argument he probably does not get a win. He might win. But I felt it was at least fair to give a win to Bugsy on that, because one of those fighting types is part psychic. But beyond that, that's where the oh no comes in. Because, really, let's break it down. You got a level 16 Machop here with Guts. You've got a level 16 Meditite with Pure Power, and a level 16 19 Makuhita with Thick Fat. Great, wonderful. Cry Chop, Low Kick, Seismic Toss, Bulk Up. They all have Bulk Up. Arm Thrust, Vital Throw Reversal, Reflect, Light Screen, Focus Punch. Great. Against Gardenia, it's not really going to matter that much. Already, she's got higher level Mon here. She's really not that impressive. He's really not that impressive in terms of what he can do. Fighting is resisted by poison, so Roserade has a resistance. You also have these Mon that have Leech Seed, you have Stun Spore, you have, I believe, Sunny Day is on there, so Synthesis or things like those lines can work. Plus Reflect on the Turtwig. It's just it's not a good team for Brawly to go up against. Likewise, Poison resists fighting as well, so this is also not a good matchup for Brawly. Now, the Psychic type would have an advantage if Meditite actually knew any Psychic type moves, which he doesn't. Unfortunately, here you get Mon who are at a higher level than what, or his weakest, or her weakest are stronger than his weakest. I guess that's the best way to put it. Now, his strongest is stronger than her strongest, but the Bug Poison type is a terrible type to go up against if you're a fighting type. Now, granted, it doesn't know any Bug type moves, but again, it doesn't really matter when they don't really have any moves to bring this team down with. So, add on Poison, add on durability, and add a type advantage. And again, it's not like Poison's strong against fighting, it just resists fighting. and you get a combination. And plus, that Whirlwind has Poison Point. So you're kind of screwed because it knows Venoshock as well. So there's that. Now, the one other leader I think Brawly could win against is Grant, because that Aurorus is already ×4 weak to fighting. So even though those attacks are going to hurt, it actually, if you look at its move pool, doesn't have a move that's designed to take down fighting type moves. It has an ice type move, which is weak against fighting and resisted by fighting. It has one rock type move, again, resisted by fighting and weak against fighting. It has takedown, which is fine, but honestly, there's enough bulk on all these guys, especially if you use bulk up, that they can take a hit from takedown. And they're probably faster because Amoris and Tyron aren't the fastest Pokemon. The Thunder Wave might be problematic, but I think even if it takes down the Machop, the Meditite's taking down the Amora, which means then you're just now dealing with strong draw Tyron, which admittedly has a huge level gap here, and the Dragon type is going to give it a little bit of protection. But when you actually break it down, yes, it has strong draw, but that's a Dark type move. Fighting resists Dark type, obviously. It's strong against Dark type. Rock Tomb shouldn't really be that big of an issue, especially if the bulk up has been happening. Stomp could be problematic, and I do think the Meditite would be going down. But the Makuhita, as long as it gets a chance to bulk up once and then Arm Thrust, I actually think Brawly, it would be tight with the Tyron, but I actually think Brawly would be able to beat Grant, despite the huge level gap. And when I say huge, it is big, especially when you factor in his weakest to them. That's a 9 level gap. But the Makuhita is a level 19, so it's nowhere near as big a gap there. It's 6 levels. Still big, but still winnable. And then against Nessa, honestly, at that point, though, Nessa, I think, does beat him outright. Because, again, the level 16 Meditite and Machop, they're going to be taken down pretty quick by the Goldeen's and the Arrokuda. And that's assuming that either of them don't drop first. The Makuhita could take care of either of those, and might even be able to take care of the Dreadnought. The problem is, again, Dreadnought, even with a tight disadvantage, has a lot of bulk to it. And it's got a massive amount of attack. So you add in Headbutt or Razor Shell, and that's assuming that the Arrokuda or Goldeen don't get a hit in on the Makuhita. Even though I think it'd be tight for Nessa a little bit, I do think Brawly ultimately would lose that fight. So I still rank him as the 5th strongest, and I think there's actually a legit argument to be made that he could beat Nessa too. But I see him firmly in the middle of this list right now. We're getting along there. All right then. So coming in at the number 4 spot, we got Gardenia. Specifically, as you've been seeing, her Platinum team. Her Platinum team is actually really strong and pretty well balanced, actually. Because you have all of her Mon are in the 20s at that point. It's all grass, but she's also got some poison coverage there, which is great. So we've already established, honestly, who I think she could beat just outright. I think she can totally beat Misty. I think she beats Bugsy. I think she beats Brawly. I think she beats Lenora. And I think she beats Brassius. So is there anyone else I think she beats? Well, the only other one I think she actually beats is Nessa. And this comes straight on from the fact that she has a strict type advantage over Nessa. And level to level, even though Nessa does have a stronger Pokemon, that gap is so small in terms of level, and you have a fully evolved Roserade and a fully evolved Cherrim on the team, with Magical Leaf, Laser Leaf, Stun Spore, Leech Seed, plus the Turtwig as well on there. She's going to curb stomp Nessa. Honestly, she's just going to curb stomp her. Unfortunately, that was the only other gym leader I think she could beat. She's not beating Roxy. She just is. That type advantage is just too strong. The only, because Turtwig and Cherrim are just going to get poisoned pretty quick. They're going to be lucky to take down one of them, but I think it's possible. Roserade will be problematic because it can't be poisoned. But between Whirlipede having rollout, Disable on Grimer, I think they are going to overwhelm her. So I would give it to Roxy. And even though even though the gap isn't huge, unlike with Brawly, this is kind of an opposite scenario here. And this is due to the fact that Adamora, while being a rock type, is also an ice type, which means any grass type moves are going to be resisted to some degree. And the takedown, because of Refrigerate, is an ice type move as well. So honestly, that Amora alone could take down the entire team. It really could. And if it doesn't, then I do think Tyrant's going to come in and finish the job. So while I do think she's extremely capable, I would say she is only the fourth strongest. But coming in at our third strongest, the bronze medal, if you will, comes our favorite punk rock player, our favorite poison rocker, Roxy. Roxy's a very unique case here because Roxy lost to not a lot of characters. Roxy, I think, can beat pretty much all of them. All the characters I said have lost so far, those are the characters she beats. That's really your only problem, is the fact that she beats Misty, Bugsy, Brawly, Gardenia, Lenora, and Brassius. I think she struggles with some of them, but she can still beat them. But the problem, and she has a tied record with Gardenia. The reason she's over Gardenia is very simple. She beat Gardenia. Because when you break it down to the last two, there's just too big of a level gap. Because you have Tyrant there at 25 and 24, and Amora at 25. Rock type, again, I believe Rock at least resists poison. Add on the fact that Rock Tomb's going to slow them down. Bite on Strongjaw. Strongjaw Tyrant is going to be a big hindrance. Thunder Wave and then just ice attacks from Amora is just going to be overly powerful. And again, a severe level gap here where you're dealing with Mon that at her strongest is 6 levels lower. And unfortunately, unlike with Brawly, who had a severe type advantage over those two, that's not the case here. And then if you deal with Nessa real quick here, it's the same issue here. Not quite as bad, but the fact is she also has more Pokemon than Grant does. And it's a matter of speed versus power and durability. Yes, Goldeen is going to get poisoned, no doubt about it. Arrokuda too. But I do think, honestly, Dreadnought's probably going to be able to cleave through the majority of them if they haven't already been taken down. And Venipede, a level 19 Venipede versus a level 24 Dreadnought, I'm giving it to the Dreadnought with Razor Shell, Headbutt, and Water Gun. That's my take on it. So that brings us down to the last two. You got Nessa and you got Grant. So who do I rank as the second strongest second gym leader? And my take on that is Grant. And it really came down to just one thing. He was able to beat everyone else except for Nessa. That's it. That's the only one he could not beat. And let's just get Nessa up here right now so she can take a bow, everyone. Nessa versus Grant. They could be related, actually, looking at them. Because we don't know their last names, do we? But yeah, this is a bit of a tricky one because level-wise he's got the advantage and he's got a little type advantage when it comes to the dragon. But they still carry that rock weakness, particularly on Amora. And Amora has 2 ice attacks that aren't going to be doing much. The Thunder Wave, though, will be problematic for a while. No doubt about that. And I even see Amora maybe taking down the Goldeen. But the Arrokuda is too fast for it to take down. It's going to go down hard. It's going to get a couple good shots in on the Tyrant before the Tyrant takes it down either with Stomp or Bite. Then it's going to be Dreadnought versus Tyrant. Tyrant would be having the level advantage and a bit of a type advantage, but it's also going to already be whittled down a bit from its battle with Arrokuda. And Dreadnought still overall is a more fully evolved Pokemon, which has just better stats. So ultimately, Nessa would beat Grant, and therefore Nessa is the strongest gym leader. And so there you have it, folks. Ranking the strongest gym leaders from Bugsy, Lenora, Misty, Brassius, Brawly, Gardenia, Roxy, Grant, and Nessa. Those are the strongest second gym leaders you would find in your journey. Join us again next time, whenever that might be. I don't know when I'll get the next. Maybe I'll do another one this week. I got plenty of other videos I want to do, but maybe I'll do another one of those this week. We'll see what happens. Until then, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.